For that, hi everyone, Sue, compulsive eater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the gray sheet, write it down, call it into my sponsor. Don't eat in between no matter what. For today, abstinence is the most important thing in my life without exception. My abstinence date is May 18th, 2006. And I'm here to build a defense against the first bite. I want to thank Dottie, who I don't see on tonight, for reminding me, number one, that I agreed to speak. And I was taught early on when I came in that, when you're asked to do service, you do it. And for me, that keeps me in the middle of the herd. I feel like a lot of you may have heard my story, so I'm going to try and switch it up and try not to cry. But in my in-person share, when I qualify on my anniversary, I'd like to do visuals, and it's hard to do it on Zoom, but I'm going to try show you two pictures. One, this is me in August of 2001 at Yankee Stadium. This photo and another photo, which I'm not going to show, but a new one I have today. This I found a couple years ago. This is a side profile of me. Probably right around that same time. And that side, when I found that picture at Christmas time a few years ago, I was literally stunned. I knew I had a weight problem, obviously, from the pictures. But it was just so humiliating and just so, I just felt myself recoil and brought myself back right to that time. In both of these pictures, I can exactly remember what was running through my mind when I took these pictures. And that day in Yankee Stadium, I was struggling sitting in that seat because it was the old Yankee Stadium, and it had the metal seats with the side rails, and the side rails were digging into my hips. And, I was just utterly miserable. I was this skinny girl wanting desperately to get out of a heavy body. I looked pretty normal growing up. My weight problem didn't really start until, puberty and that awkward phase, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then it I'm only 5 foot tall, so the height didn't help me at all. Was a size 9 in high school, probably on maybe 500 to 800 calories. It was the 80s. Grew up in the 70s, hearing about Twiggy, but, really leaning towards, I remember Suzanne Summers and all that. I remember my mom struggling with diets. She had a weight problem. My dad struggled with his weight and was on diets as well. But it was truly the diet food. It was the leafy stuff. It was the white dairy thing. And it was, a piece of fruit in a can kind of thing. And that it was more restrictive and punitive. And I grew up when I started putting my weight on after high school, that, it was punitive. I had no 12-step experience when I came in 2003. But I felt I lacked some moral compass, that it was a moral issue, that there was something missing inside of me, that I just could not eat normally or look like a normal person. Coming into Gray Sheet and the 12-step way of life, I have language now and vocabulary now that perfectly describes kind of what I've went through in my path to get to these rooms. My dad is a child of an alcoholic. He grew up in a very, I think I never really talked to him about it, but I believe it was probably violent because he had to go live. He was, I think, away from his mother for a time, him and his sister, and his dad died prematurely, I think in his early 40s from alcoholism. And my dad had quit cold turkey in the early 70s, quit drinking. And I think my mom's side of the family too had a little bit of that going on as well. So I had the disease. It didn't manifest until I was, obviously a lot older in high school. The idea for me, growing up was, either people went to college, you went to business school. If you were a guy, you'd go to college and be successful. If you were a girl, you'd go to school with the idea of getting the guy, having the kids stay home, having 2 kids, 3 kids, whatever, be a stay-at-home mom, put on the weight, you know, have better living through chemistry to control all of the things that happen when you have excess weight, high blood pressure, all that kind of stuff. And I saw all of my mom, my grandmother, my aunts go through all of that time of their life. I mean, you know, it was a little different for each of them, but the commonality was, you know, it was expected that you put on the weight as you got older and you dealt with it. And it just was going to be, it was going to be. My dad's mom was very heavy. So I have a lot of it in me. And I struggled, you know, after high school. And I can just vividly remember just diving into the food, like down and dirty sugar addict. Anytime I put sugar in my mouth, I always wanted more. I could never understand why I could not have one of something. I was able to, you know, coworkers, you know, go out to lunch and, you know, go to the huge Italian restaurant, get plates of, eat half of that plate and be this thin. Whereas me, I'm eating this quarter, you know, this little bit of food, and still struggling. And the mentality and the mental gymnastics in my head, of trying to figure out a diet, plan a diet, especially this time of year. I can't tell you how many, God bless, people can do it, Weight Watcher commercials. I tried Weight Watchers countless times, trying to manipulate and figure out what the right combination of calories was, the right then combination of exercise, because I developed an affinity for exercise, and just always set myself up to fail. You know, I would have one slip or one thing that I thought that I failed at. I'm like, oh, why am I going to do this? I'll start again on Monday. Or I was good the whole week. It's Friday. I'll treat myself. And then, you know, go off to the races the whole weekend. And it was that mental chatter back and forth of just really trying to figure it out. Every magazine, you know, wanting to, you know, I'm an introvert by nature. You know, I can remember when I met the guy that I eventually married, you know, he became my new eating buddy. I'm an only child. My parents were my eating buddies growing up, but he became my new eating buddy. And he came from an Italian Portuguese family, with a whole new plethora of food open to me. I competed with his mother with baking at Christmas time. But he became my new eating buddy, and the scale never went down after that. And it was all about, you know, vacations were all about food. You know, I would go to the grocery store trying to plan out healthy meals with the leafy stuff and, you know, get all of the, you know, you had to have carbs and all that. And, you know, I'd have 2 and 3 helpings at dinner. I would, you know, clean the plates as I was putting dinner plates away, the tasting while cooking. You know, calories don't count when you stand up and eat, you know, all that crazy stuff. And just wanting and searching for that one bite, standing in front of the refrigerator, like after having a full dinner, standing in front of the refrigerator, looking for something that would just give me that one bite to quiet my head and say, okay, that's it. You can eat like a normal person and your body will be normal. Since I'm 13, prayed for the willpower to lose weight. As I mentioned, it was about willpower early on. Tried to get pregnant, got pregnant somewhat easily with my first, that was my oldest daughter in the picture, Yankee Stadium, and gestational diabetic, 8 for 2, 8 for 6. You know, my husband at the time would go and get the frozen stuff and the frozen confections because I wanted it. You know, I had this craving for it. I was eating for 2. It was okay. Had her, she was 2 weeks late. She was 10 pounds, 6 ounces. It was the quickest 10 pounds I ever lost in my life. And I nursed her that whole summer. She was born in April. I took that summer off. I went back to work in September, and I got pregnant at 220. I wound up getting, when I went back to work, at 220, but I probably put on about 50 or 60 pounds with that pregnancy and struggled. Like I could never get under 200. And I was so mortified being over 200 pounds. I was 265 plus pounds when I came in here.
That's 10 too.
Thanks, Nan. And I stopped weighing myself. I hated getting on the scale. I tried getting pregnant soon after that. I wound up having insulin resistance. My mom wound up in the hospital. She had diabetes at that time, did not take care of it, and ultimately succumbed to that disease in 1999 at the age of 54 from complications from diabetes. And that was not enough to get me to stop eating. I ate my way through that whole year. 99 into 2000. And really after that too. So I tried to get pregnant and I wound up going to my mom's endocrinologist. He put me on a diet. He gave me a range of carbs to eat. I had to, do all that. And he did that after I got pregnant, but he put me on medicine. I did fertility, and lo and behold, I got pregnant with twins. He put me on that diet because I was just gestational diabetic. And I truly believe there's no mistakes. I think I grew up with this belief that there's something bigger in the universe. I choose to call it God. No formal religious upbringing or anything like that, but I knew that, God works in mysterious ways. And so he gave me this. I had to write it down: 3 meals, 2 snacks, write it down, test my blood sugar 5 times a day, write it down, fax it to him. Had the twins in April of 2003, and they're going to be 20 this year. And my oldest is going to be 27, which I just don't believe where that went. And I was looking for another diet. Like I was 36 years old. I was on the floor with them. I carried them to 37 weeks. I probably gained about 20 pounds with that pregnancy because of that diet my endocrinologist put me on. But I was like, I can't do it anymore. Like, I was tired of replacing my clothes. I was tired of putting zinc oxide on my thighs in the summer. My thighs rubbed together, just feeling slovenly and just not feminine and not pretty. And I was just like, what is it going to take? So I was looking at joining Weight Watchers again, take off pounds sensibly. I had done like Slim Fast and Richard Simmons and all that prior to that, but none of that ever worked. So I threw my hands up. I'm like, that's it. I can't do it. Like, I can't do it anymore. Like, I'm going to resign myself to be a happy fat person because I cannot figure this thing out. And all I wanted to do is be a model for my kids, especially my girls. I had boy-girl twins, and my oldest was my daughter, just to be able to just to demonstrate and show them how to cross their legs. I couldn't even do that. But again, as I said, God works in mysterious ways, and I get choked up at this point because there was a GreySheeter in my husband's family. She had weighed and measured at our wedding. And I had heard from my father-in-law at the time that, oh, my sister does crazy things with her food and everything. And she saw me struggle. And every time she'd come to my house, would ask me how things were made, whatever. And we would go to her house every Memorial Day, July 4th and all that. And it was July. I had the twins in April. It was July. We'd gone to her house and said there was a gray sheet meeting 10 minutes from my house, that she would meet me there. And only by the grace of my higher power that I said yes. And I walked into my first gray sheet meeting scared to death. This timid little person, like, what is going on? This timid little person full of perfectionism, full of low self-worth, doubt, but a people pleaser. But I walked into the room. It was the first time I had heard and people feel and do the same things that I did with food. Didn't understand this compulsive eater thing. I heard people say grateful. I'm like, what's to be grateful about to be a compulsive eater? And I stuck around long enough, but I thought I knew it all. I grabbed a copy of the gray sheet, shopped to all my doctors because it was just unfathomable to me that you couldn't have carbs. Shopped it all around to all my, oh no, it's fine. It's tried. So I went and got a scale. I tried it on my own for a little bit, figured I could do it, got myself a sponsor, and then promptly lied for 2.5 years, manipulating the gray sheet. And I'd had some success losing the weight, but I was always manipulating it, lying to her, calling in my food, going to the coffee shop, getting the sweet thing, always having to have something sweet still after. That was another one of my MOs. Anytime I ate, I had to have something sweet after. And it was just insanity. It was complete insanity, and the monkey that I had on my back. But again, it was just this, had to make it all look good on the outside to people please. Who was I people pleasing? The fellowship? So my last binge, I remember very vividly. It was a beautiful May spring day, blue sky, puffy white clouds. I'm driving yet again to a fast food place, driving through the fast food. I remember the meal I got. I drove across the street, pulled into the parking lot, and proceeded to eat that meal like an animal. Again, rolling down the windows, throwing the bags out the window because I didn't want the smells in my car. And something, again, I can only attribute it to my higher power. Says, what are you doing? Like, either you can do this or do gray sheet, continue to, put the weight back on. And I chose to do gray sheet. And it was a day at a time. And that was another one of my problems. Like, I had to, in my head, when I first came in, it was like I had to do it forever. But that day that I got honest and got abstinent and committed my food on May 18th, 2006, it was like something just clicked and said, okay, it's just for today. Tomorrow I can maybe make another decision, but for today, I'm going to weigh and measure my food. So again, trying to drop all of the perfectionism and stuff. People with time had said, don't worry about learning the steps and doing the steps, like just learn the mechanics of weighing and measuring your food. Get the scale, have the battery backups, have a scale in your car, couple in your kitchen, which I do, in your desk at work, backup in your desk at work, backup in your car. Go to meetings to hear the message of why you ate. And I do that. And that's why I say I'm here to build a defense against, it's my clock, sorry. To build a defense against the first bite, because I am not cured. The disease is doing push-ups and ready to take me at any moment. And perfect example, this morning, I woke up singing a fast food restaurant commercial. I'm like, what is that? But I told one of my prayer partners, I'm like, that's probably the disease. It's probably a good reminder, like, just to stay close to the program. And so about a year, I learned, weighing and measuring in all circumstances. I did an AWOL a couple years after, like, I think, oh God, what was it? 2006, 7, 8, did an AWOL, which is a way of life, which is, at that time was an 18-month step study of we did the Little Red Book, and, learning more deeply about myself. But what the challenging part was at the time was I was a full-time working mom. My kids were very active in sports. Those of you that know me, soccer mom here, trucking it to work, a 45-minute commute, working full-time, dropping them off to school, going to work, driving 45 minutes, coming home, running a household, trying to do groceries, running them to practice, but all of that stuff I was able to do because I was abstinent, all the way. And it was just keeping it in the day. As the years go by, my prayer and meditation practice was praying in the car on the way to work, praying in the car on the way home. But that's what I heard going to meetings. Like, it's part of that program. And I can believe in a doorknob if I need to. But as I said, my higher power, I choose to call God, but like, I just did whatever I needed to do at the time. And people had said to me in the beginning, like, I wish you a slow recovery. And I'm like, I didn't get that either. But now 16 and a half-ish years in, a day at a time, I get that.
1 minute, Sue.
Thanks. And to not judge myself for doing it not perfect. But learning to weigh and measure. And I thank God I do this. I wait till the very last minute because it's so important. But I cry every time I go through this. Weigh and measure in all areas and conditions of my life. My food, in restaurants, and through all the no matter whats. I've had a few doozies since 2018. A friend's son died. My dad had liver cancer, walked him through that and cared for him through that. He died in March of 2019. In April of 2019, a month later, I lost my job that I was at for 30 plus years. Took 6 months off. It took me 6 months to find a job. That was another big no matter what. Found the job, COVID hit, learning and training a job during COVID, and then ultimately making a decision to get divorced. And learning these last, however, it's been 6 months, whatever, 18 months, 16 months, I don't know, 18's in my head. Learning about myself and building this new life has taught me a lot about myself. Putting my dog down this week sucked. But it's learning to weigh and measure, because no amount of food is going to change any of that, any of those circumstances. Food's not going to make it better. Food would make it invariably worse, because I'd be, 100 pounds heavier than I am. I've maintained about 100-pound weight loss. My age and menopause has changed that number over the last couple of years, but I am grateful today that I've got the food committee silent in my head. I have to be ever vigilant to make sure that I have, all my scales, food, and just really every day stay grateful and really remember every day what it was like in these pictures, because it was hell. And I don't ever want to go back there, and just to stay in gratitude for a day at a time. The gratitude for my scale, that I'm able to eat a healthy diet, especially the last couple of years with all that's gone on with COVID and all that other kind of stuff. Like, I am completely blessed to be given this gift of Grey Sheet and to be this thin person that I've always wanted to be. I'd like to be a little thinner, but you know what? I'm turning that over, and just really staying in the middle of this fellowship, because this fellowship means so much to me, and the service I do for it. Like, I need to stay in the middle, because if I go out, I am not coming back. If I pick up in one bite, I am not coming back, because the food was just everything.
Unfortunately, that's time, Sue.
I'll wrap it up. So I'm just, again, if you didn't hear before, I'm grateful for this program. I'm grateful a day at a time that I weigh and measure my food. And thanks for listening. And I don't eat no matter what. Thanks.